What if the secret to success wasn't just talent or hard work, but unshakable confidence? Welcome to Grasp Confidence, the podcast where visionary thought leaders, speakers, and entrepreneurs unlock the mindset and strategies for lasting success. I'm your host, Tara LaFon Gooch, CEO, two-time best-selling author, and international TEDx speaker, and I can't wait to help you step into the most powerful version of yourself. Let's dive in. Hey everyone, it is Tara LaFon Gooch, your host of Grasp Confidence Podcast here. Today I'm doing a solo episode. This is always exciting. I love doing these. And this week's episode is a fun one. And I don't know who follows me on LinkedIn. If you do, drop some love in a comment below where you're watching from if you follow me on LinkedIn. And if you follow me on LinkedIn, hopefully you also follow my newsletter called From Calling to Confidence. So check that out as well. But if you follow me on LinkedIn, on my newsletter, a couple of weeks ago, I asked you guys to write in questions for me that I would air on this podcast because I get a lot of questions every single day, and it's really hard for me to keep up with the amount of questions that we get as an agency or that I get just as a person, right? So I left it pretty broad. I said, reach out to me about questions about confidence, how to step into your calling, how to build a business, questions about branding, questions about starting a podcast like this, questions about building an audience. I mean, really, really broad based on just different things that I am good at, right? And how I help other people as well. So I encourage you to keep sending those questions in. Definitely. You can email them to the show. You can submit a question to me online, a direct message. I'm on pretty much every platform. The place I hang out with most is LinkedIn, so definitely reach out on there as well. But any question that you have about any of those topics, feel free to send them, and I will cover them on various Confidence Hotline. I'm going to call it the Confidence Hotline podcast episodes. And just make sure you follow the show on your favorite platform so that when these episodes drop, you don't miss your episode and answer to your question. So I'm going to go ahead and read some submissions. And again, these are from people from all over the world who sent me questions just over the last couple of weeks. I'm going to answer them. And then again, feel free to keep sending them in as we go. So let's see. The first question here is from Ashley in Austin, Texas. Hey, Ashley. And she says, how do I walk into a networking event without looking like I just want to disappear into the guacamole table? Ooh, first off, love guacamole. That's funny. So I would say I've been there too. I feel like I'm a recovering introvert in a lot of ways. How you get started is really just putting the focus not on yourself, but putting it on the other person. And I ask just, the other person, just basically being very curious about them. And I focus on just being curious, not perfect. And I also focus on complimenting that other person. That is always the best way to make instant friends, build instant trust with somebody else, is to compliment someone. So if there's someone I want to talk to at a networking event, let's say, I find one thing about them that I really like. So if it's a lady, I may compliment her on her jewelry or her dress or outfit or whatever, maybe even her hair, something like that, lipstick color. It doesn't matter, right? Just pick one thing and be genuine about it that you like about either that other person or something they're wearing or something like that. Find that one thing and start that conversation, and then just be curious about them. Ask them a lot of questions, and I would say focus on just being a very active listener and repeating back to them certain things that they say, right? And if you take the spotlight off of you and put it on that other person, every single time they're going to respond well, you'll have an instant friend within about 5 minutes. So I would try that approach. And yes, I would say that. So hopefully that won't make you feel like you're going to disappear into the guacamole. I love that question, by the way. Second question here. I've got Sophia from London, UK. Love it. Shout out to my friends in London. All right. So this one says, how do I sound confident in meetings when my voice goes up an octave? Every time my boss asks me a question, oh my gosh, I so relate to this question. This question really resonates with me. There was a time when I was like terrified. I did not feel like I could articulate what I wanted to my manager, to my boss, to my uppers, superiors at work, whatever. I just was so unconfident in my speech. And I don't know if you're listening to this and you relate that when you get that way and you start to get nervous, you actually talk a lot faster. So one thing that I think you can do to start just feeling more confident when you are speaking to your manager, your boss, your leadership, whoever, is to slow your pace. And did you hear that change when I slowed my pace just now? It just signifies to the other person that you're calm when you slow your pace. And the best thing to do before speaking is to breathe before speaking. Don't just start speaking and run out of air. Because if it sounds like you're talking really fast and then you run out of air and have to take a deep breath, it sounds like you're, one, very unconfident, but two, it almost conveys that you're hiding something. That's not good. It does not signify trustworthiness. Remember, at the end of the day, confidence is competence. It means that you feel that you are competent in your abilities. And if you are truly competent in your abilities, you're going to present yourself calmly, right? As a leader, speak as a leader. So pause, take a deep breath before speaking your first sentence, slow your pace, and just remember that people care about your ideas. They want to hear what you have to say, right? They don't care about your pitch. And nobody knows ultimately your pitch but you. So no one's going to notice if you miss a word or two. It's not about that. It's about conveying your ideas with confidence, clarity, and calmness so that you can convey to the other person that you are competent. Great question. Love that. Let's go to Kelly in Phoenix, Arizona. Hi, Kelly. Kelly says, how do I feel confident about raising my prices for my coaching services? I know I deliver value, but I get nervous that clients will say no. Ooh, I love this. So a couple of weeks ago on our podcast, I interviewed someone and we talked about being the Ferrari. So check out that episode. It was with someone named Paula, Coach Paula. We talked about being a Ferrari. What does that mean? Well, if you're a Ferrari, that doesn't mean you're for everyone. And naturally, we know that we can't please everyone, can we? No, and it's not about serving everyone. It's about serving the right ones. And the right ones are never going to, they're never going to try to negotiate with you on price. The right ones generally pay in full upfront. The right ones require the least amount of work. The right ones refer you clients. The right ones provide mutually beneficial opportunities, partnerships, sponsorships. The list goes on, right? So we know it's not about pleasing everyone. So yes, I would say get used to it, right? When you raise your prices for your services, you will have people say no. But I would encourage you to go back and listen to my episode with Chris Burris on this subject. Chris is a chief scientist and founder of myvitalc.com. So they are very much a product-oriented business. But in that episode, he gives so much value about why raising your prices is important, and actually that when you raise your prices, you can serve less people and make more money. In other words, the maths, and it makes sense. So I would say, things are never more expensive as they are right now, right? It costs $7 or more to get a carton of eggs. It's absolutely crazy. So if you're not raising your prices as a coach, as a consultant, as a speaker, as a thought leader, ultimately, you're going to be working a lot more and earning less over time, because that's how it works, right? So the best thing you can do today is to raise your prices and get comfortable with people telling you no. That's going to happen, and be confident anyway. If you have a product or service that you know is transformative, and I think that's the key, then why would you be nervous? Why would you be nervous? And if you are nervous, I would ask you, what about your product or service are you unsure of? And this is why it's so important to really just, look at yourself in the mirror as an entrepreneur. Because if you have a truly transformative product or service, you've got case studies, you've got testimonials, you've got, a good body of work to demonstrate your credibility, there should be no such thing as nervous, right? If you know that outcome for that person is transformational, I would say start charging for the transformation and years of experience behind it, right? The right clients will see your value, raise your price with conviction, and you'll attract clients who are ready at that level. So important. Love that question. All right, let's go to Maria in North Carolina. Maria, hi. Good to meet you. We should connect and have a coffee sometime. I'm not that far from Charlotte. So Maria says, Tara, I read your book and thought, why can't I do that? Why can't I share my story? How do I feel confident enough to put my own story out there? Oh, I love that. That's such a good question. And that answer, that question, we'll back up a little bit. That question, that thought that you have, is your calling stirring? And I love this. So before I wrote my first book, I'm the first author in my family. I didn't really know any other authors either. They weren't in my friend circle, none in my family, no real life examples of authors, right? So it seemed like a really far-fetched idea at first. Who am I to write this book? I kind of thought, right? And who's going to buy it? I mean, every limiting belief that I think you could possibly have, I thought. But going back to you, that thought is your calling stirring. And, when we think about, my story, I wasn't in a network of authors, right? But once I started to become friends with authors, I even became really good friends and business partners with a New York Times bestselling author as well. I started to realize, you know what? If they can do it, I can do it. So I would say your calling is stirring right now. That's your signification that you were probably supposed to do this. And that's a good thing. So it's desire bubbling up, right? The next step is for you to take action, to take inspired action. And then action really doesn't start with you writing the book. Action starts with you building your network and circle with people who have also written books, who are successful. And then believing that you are already an author, right? You've already authored your own story, right? Now it's just as simple as putting pen to paper or typing it, right? Preferably type it. And it really does start with just that. Change your environment, start taking inspired action, building your circle with the right people who have accomplished the same goal as you. And then have the belief that number one, your story matters. Okay. You are the expert at your story, and nobody can tell your story like you. So your story matters. It is significant. And you need to start believing that it is and stop listening to the lies or limiting beliefs we tell ourselves, because that is so easy to do. But I would say start small, share pieces of maybe content online about bits and pieces of your story, or even if it's content from lessons that you've learned in life. What is the biggest lesson you've learned in life? I feel, and from my experience, when something is told with authenticity, it will resonate so deeply with somebody. So don't focus on that other person. Again, we talked about that with speaking. Don't focus on that other person, or don't focus on yourself and put the stage on you. Focus on that other person you're talking to, right? All right, we've got Daniel from Portland, Oregon. Daniel from Portland, Oregon. And he says, I have dreamed about doing a TEDx talk, but I keep asking myself, who am I to stand on that stage? Oh my gosh. I just said that, right? And then he goes on to say, how do I build the confidence to apply? Wow, great question, Daniel. Thank you. So I would say every single TEDx speaker, just like every single author, right? We talked about authors before, started with the same thought. Ask yourself, what's the one message you'd want to be remembered for 10 years from now? Think about that. What is the message? What is that evergreen advice that you have from either that lived experience, professional expertise? Maybe you have even a contrarian argument to something that's popular, right? What is the one thing, one piece of advice you want to be remembered for in the future? And again, going back to the coaching question, what transformation do you want to provide? So we think about this because TEDx is very much a brand building piece of the puzzle, right? And when we have a brand building piece of the puzzle, we want it to be something ultimately that we talk about for years to come, not something that we're just into today. It's not about a trend. It's not about a latest fad or fashion. It's about creating a piece of evergreen content that if people search for your talk 10 years from now, right, it's going to have the same resonance, same transformative quality. And you want to be still known for something like that, right? So I think it starts with the belief that you can do this, right, if you're an expert. And again, going back to the book question, surround yourself with other TEDx speakers who have done what you seek to do. I would never hire a fitness trainer that doesn't work out, right? I would never. That's a good example. Just like I would never hire a TEDx coach who has never spoken on the TEDx stage, right? Or helped other people do that. So I think it's important that if it's a goal for you, I would love to help you with that dream. But if it's not me, I would definitely say find yourself a coach, because it is so important to understand that, the intricacies and the differences of TEDx, a TEDx talk, versus any other speech that you're going to do. And there's stark differences. So it really does help to hire a coach that can guide you through these processes as well. All right, we've got Jasmine in San Diego, California. Hello, Jasmine. Jasmine's question is, being visible online terrifies me. I know I need to show up on LinkedIn and Instagram, but I overthink every post. How do I feel confident putting myself out there? Great question. Again, take the spotlight off of you. I think a lot of us are doing that, right? We're thinking about us instead of the other person, the audience. So I would think about it as a service, not performance. Right now, if you're nervous, you're performing. It's not about you performing, it's about you serving. So share what could help just one person today. So just think about one person. What piece of knowledge do you have that you could share with somebody and help them? Right? I think that's so important. And generally, the people that we can best serve are the people we were a couple years ago, 5 years ago, right? Who were we just a few years ago? And how have we improved since then that we can help that person who is in that same space we were in just a few years ago? So I say keep it focused on the other person. Again, think service. And just remember that confidence, like anything, it grows with consistency, not perfection. There's no such thing as perfect. It just grows with consistency and not showing, not stopping showing up, not giving up, right? That's so important. So show up, connect, and rinse and repeat. That's my best advice for you. Oh, we have an international inquiry. I love this. Lucia from Rome, Italy. What's the secret to looking confident in photos? I love that. When my default pose is confused tourist with a forced smile. I love that. So I will share some confidence photo tips with you guys. I think the first thing is looking at your stance in a photo. You want to have a wide enough stance so that you're stable. You don't want to put like one hip up and have one hip down, for example. That doesn't look confident. So I would say, stand with your feet shoulder width or so apart. And then another big thing is your posture, right? So stand shoulder width apart so that you're stable. But then think about your posture, how you're appearing in that photo. Yes, we want to tuck our shoulders back, but it's more than that. Posture is more than that. Really starts at your lower abdomen. So it's called your transverse abdominis. It's your lower abdomen. If you practice on kind of squeezing your belly button to your spine, so think about squeezing your belly button to your spine, really kind of, feeling that lower abdomen. That is going to set the rest of your spine and the rest of you, the rest of your torso a little bit straighter. So pair it with the lower abdomen, kind of sucking that in, and then pulling your shoulders back. And of course, chin up. And then I would say right before the picture, think of something that genuinely maybe made you laugh. Maybe it was a funny joke. Maybe you recently watched a comedy show or thought of a friend's joke or family's joke or whatever. I would try just thinking about that real quick. And again, lifting your chin up, and you'll radiate confidence instead of confusion or like you don't feel like you fit in. I think that's really important. Good question. All right, we've got Jackson from Dallas, Texas. And he says, is it normal to rehearse what I'm going to say at a party and then forget everything the second I walk through the door? I relate to this so much, Jackson. I used to have complete pretend conversations with people in my head constantly. And guess what? They never happen. They never do. But I think a lot of us are guilty, right? So I would say totally normal, but instead of memorizing your lines, which you can't do anyway, because you don't know what you're going to be asked, I would say arm yourself with curiosity. Arm yourself with curiosity. Again, it goes back to the first question that we have had today. Just go back to, asking about that other person, asking about their job, their day, or even food that you like, start talking about the food at the party, right? Or whatever it is. Just remember that confidence is about connection. Confidence is about connection, not about reciting. All right, we've got Anika in Berlin, Germany. She says, I love speaking in English, but I feel less confident because of my accent. How do I own it instead of apologizing for it? Great question. You know, it is so funny. I will say this. I'm an American, obviously. And most of my European friends have told me this. They've mentioned before they are embarrassed by their accent. And I listen to it and I'm like, it sounds so beautiful, so worldly, so traveled, right? So I will say this, Aunt Anika, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly, that Americans absolutely love accents. We just go crazy over them. So we're probably going to ask you questions like, where are you from? Right. And again, it'll kind of take the spotlight off of you, and then you can start asking questions and engaging with that other person. But I would say don't worry about it. Your accent is probably amazing. And after all, it means you're multilingual and traveled, and that's confidence. I love that. All right, let's go to the last question. We've got Emma from Sydney, Australia. Emma says, can confidence be faked? Ooh, this might be my favorite question of the day. Can confidence be faked? I'm going to say this. I have a controversial stance on this because there's TEDx talks that say, basically you can fake it till you make it, right? There's a lot of information that's out there and sayings, right? We hear this saying all the time, fake it till you make it. When in your experience, I will just say this to you and ask a question back. When in your experience has that ever been true? That when you fake something about yourself, you become more confident. See, from my experience, when I faked something, and when we think about the word fake, it means to lie. It's not authentic, right? So the word fake means to lie. It's not real. So how, again, in your experience, has that been positive? That when you lie, good outcomes happen, right? I mean, as simple as that is, in my experience, that just simply has not been true, right? So I don't believe that's true. That if you fake it, you're gonna make it all of a sudden, and boom, you're gonna have authentic confidence. Again, we're talking about two antonyms here. We're talking about faking and authenticity. They are not the same thing. So how can it be true? So I would say don't fake it till you make it. I don't like that saying. I would say embody it until you become it. I'll repeat that one more time. Embody it until you become it. Big difference. When you embody confidence, it becomes a part of who you are. It becomes a part of who you are. It's the message you convey to someone else, right? It signifies again that you're competent, that you're trustworthy, that you are a person of your word, right? That again, people can count on you. So it's really important to align with authentic confidence and an embodiment. And one of the best ways we can do this is by practicing gratitude, right? Practice gratitude. And in my TEDx talk, I talk about the 3 foundational layers of gratitude. Gratitude for the person that we were. What about our life experiences, our past, the lessons, the trials, the adversities that we've gone through that we can be grateful for because they shaped us into what? Well, the person we are today, right? So it's a good way of reframing our past and looking at it as an expression of gratitude than things that hold us back, hold us down, etc. Right? So it starts with a foundation of gratitude for who you were. Then there's a foundational layer of gratitude for the person that you are. Again, all of those experiences that you went through in life shaped you into the person you are today. And then it's gratitude for who you are becoming. So that's the third layer. And that's important because there's a quote by Marion Wright Edelman that says, "You can't be what you can't see. You can't be what you can't see." So until you can visualize yourself as a confident person, a successful person, somebody that communicates with clarity and confidence and poise and competence, it's going to be really hard. How can you become them? It starts in the mind. It starts with your belief. And we know this because neuroscience proves this. If we can visualize something very strongly, our brain doesn't know the difference between a strong visualization and reality. So what happens is the world meets us where we are, right? If we believe that we are a confident person and we imagine it and we vividly visualize it, you start to embody that person. You start to embody their characteristics, the way they walk, the way they talk, the way they present themselves, their poise, their posture. Those are the steps of building that authentic, embodied confidence that I'm talking about. And I could really spend a whole, this is a whole keynote, this is a whole podcast just talking about this. But just ask yourself, what is true to you? And if you have to ask yourself, can confidence be faked? I think you already know the answer. So the answer is no, confidence can't be faked. Confidence is an embodiment. That is it, right? So this is great because the more we embody confidence, again, through this foundational layers of gratitude, the more it builds sustainable confidence and success for ourselves, right? Because we actually learn confidence as a lifestyle choice, a habit that we choose, and less about something we're either born with or not, or something some people have and other people don't. It becomes an embodiment, it becomes who you are, rather than everything you don't think you have about yourself, right? So important, so timely. I think a lot of people can really benefit from listening to these questions. So, guys, keep the questions coming in. I would love to see more of these questions pour in. And again, don't forget to follow the show on your favorite listening platform. We're pretty much everywhere, right? On podcast land. I think we're on 30 plus channels. So follow Grasp Confidence Podcast on your favorite channel. Don't forget to hit the follow button so that you hear these answers to your questions when they drop. And feel free to leave a review on Apple as well. We just reached over 1,000 reviews on Spotify alone. So that's amazing. But we would love to see you on Apple as well, or on YouTube or wherever. So we will catch you on the next Confidence Hotline and answer some more questions. It looks like 10 is a good amount. So I think we'll stick with 10 questions for every episode we do. Keep those questions coming in, and we will catch you on the next episode. Take care.